Hi, greetings everyone, and welcome to this episode of Sea Hunters. I'm your host, Randy Morton, and welcome to season 2 of Sea Hunters. We are back here with NTV, an informative show to give you, the viewers, an idea as to what's happening in the fishing industry here on the island of Nevis. Now, people, before we go any further, I would like to say thank you to the Lord Jesus Christ for getting us this far. And without any further ado, yes, we are going to get straight into it. And today we have a very, very special guest, Mr. Earl Parris, better known as Pupil. And to be honest with you, I only learned his correct name just a few moments ago because for all the years I would have known him, I would have known him as Pupil. I had to ask him, well, what is your correct name? And he said it's Earl Parris. So, Earl Parris, welcome to Sea Hunters.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right. Now, Earl, I've known you as a diver and mainly in the lobster fishery. Could you tell us how long you've been fishing?
I've been doing fishing for lobster about 55 years or so. But into the fishing otherwise, like hauling, pot and diving, maybe about 56 or so.
Okay. So we have a real veteran fisher here. 56 years on the sea. I know many of our viewers may not even reach 40 years of age right now, and we have someone who's been fishing for 56 years. So, Pupil, could you tell us a little bit about the lobster fishing when you first got started? Who encouraged you into fishing and how you got started?
Well, nobody so much encouraged me in the fishing. Going to school when I'm much younger, when I was about 12, 13 years, I used to go guying with a guy, with a dumb guy and his nephew. We used to go catch gar. And after a while, after that, I stopped that and I used to go pull traps with Rupert Wade. He live in the States right now. And then afterwards, we get into the diving. I used to go with his brother to, and then I started to learn to dive with his brother with tank. And then afterwards, me and Wade went out a couple of times, and then I went back on my own with my own boat and everything. Used to do it, and afterwards I just stopped that, and I get in with Buckley. Then me and Buckley used to go. Then me, Buckley, and Mikey used to go too, and boom, all three of us used to go. But me and Buckley do most of it.
Okay. So, you mentioned a lot of names. So, based on what I'm hearing, there was a lot of cooperation amongst the fishers in the early stages. Do you
Yes,
still see that now?
no,
Why do you think that is?
greediness. Because now you put out pots, when you go look for your pot, you can't find them. Somebody gone with them. Probably, and sometimes they see you catching fish, and they put, when you look, you leave your pot them here, no pot there. When you go back out in 2, 3 days after, if a lot of pots around you, when you look, they start to take up your pot.
All right. Well, let's start a deeper discussion as it relates to the lobster. So tell me about the catch. Do you remember your largest catch in one day?
My largest catch in one day is 250 odd pounds.
250 odd pounds of
Yeah,
lobster in one
one
day.
day, yeah.
Um, how long ago was that? Let's say 10, 15, 20, or was that yesterday?
Maybe about 30 years.
Wow. 30 years ago,
About 30
you
years,
had
30, 20 years.
your your largest catch.
Yeah.
So, what has been happening? What trends have you noticed in the lobster fishery? Has the lobster catch been going down over the years, or what? What is it that you've
Yes,
noticed?
they catch going down because what through the bottom drafts so fast, the water drafts so fast, close up some of the reef them, you open up some, but them what just open up, no lobster gonna live there because they're not accustomed to. So the lobster gone back in the deeper water where nobody troubling them. And
Oh.
even the water draft, it don't draft that hard because they're in cliff. So the sand wouldn't bother them.
Hmm. So there's a lot of underwater currents now in more recent time than in
Yeah.
the past.
Yes.
Why do you think that is? Is it because of this climate change that we've been hearing about, or could it be something else?
Well, the water draft and it do not bring bring in the sand. The sand don't have nowhere to go. So he just filling up the reefs them.
Okay, all right. Um, I know we're in a kind of difficult time and situation at present with the COVID situation. Has that impacted on your livelihood in any way?
Yes. The hotels close, my market close. So I just forget about it.
Oh, so you're telling us that because of the COVID situation, you've lost your main source of income and you're either considering retirement from fishing or you've already retired. Which one is it?
Well, I wouldn't say I retire, I wouldn't say I wouldn't. Right now, like how the market closed, I do not force the point to get no order for lobster, so because the place is closed.
Uh-huh. So, if for any reason the restaurants and hotels were to reopen, then you would continue. But if the situation remains as it is, then what what
Well,
are your
if
options?
the hotels then open back, if I do it continue, it might be just maybe for about 2 years or so more.
Okay. So retirement is near for
Yes,
you.
yes.
Now, what about the next generation? If someone approaches you and asks you to teach them something about the sea or how to dive, would you be interested in doing that?
No, because some of them they wouldn't. You direct them what to do, and they do what they feel like. And diving with tanks, you go catch the bends very easy if you do not listen. Because some of them they got to go a place and they see lobster and they have like 500 pound a year leave, and that's why they're supposed to leave from the bottom with. They want to use the tank right down, and then when you look, they're gonna start to paddle fast to come up because they don't have no air, and that way you're gonna get bends and other things.
Well, then, the situation is very
It's
serious.
serious because a couple of years ago I had a minor stroke, right, and that came from the diving. The reason why I dive a place and I had a bag of lobster and had the air was low, and I had to paddle coming up and I had to hold my breath. So I built up a pressure there.
Hmm.
You understand? So that's what happened. I don't want to teach. And plus, if you go out fancy with some of them and they see lobster, if they're gonna look lobster and they see a lot of lobster, they're gonna start to hustle, and they where the pressure gonna build up for them, and it could cause problem for you.
So, let's say that there's a young diver who already knows a thing or two, but these things that you're talking about, they may not have known. So, would you say to a young diver, um, if they're on the and they're fishing for lobster, how do they approach it if there's a lot of lobster? Do they get one or do they try to get them all?
No, you have to catch one because you use a snare. That's a stick with a wire, with a lasso. So you gotta use one. It's only by a chance you might try lasso one and you catch two.
Okay.
It's a 50-50 chance.
Okay, so my next question is, have you ever lassoed and caught two at
Yes,
once?
yes, yes.
Okay.
It's,
So, man, I believe that we should have had some sort of record somewhere to keep track of these things, but have you ever caught three?
if I,
If you ever caught three.
no,
Oh,
two.
okay, so the maximum is two, but you've done that a few
Yeah.
times.
And most of the divers, them, they do not know how to lasso a lobster by the whip.
Mm-hmm.
They, they don't lasso by the whip because they do not
They
know it,
don't know how to
how
do
to do
it.
it.
Okay, but is that something that you'll be willing to teach on land?
It's not hard to teach,
Okay.
because you see, the lobster, when the lobster in a hole and the whip out, you can't get see the tail.
Mm-hmm.
So you could put the lasso right over the whip, come right up to the hard part,
Mm-hmm.
and you pull it,
Mm-hmm.
and you got it.
Okay. Well, that is something that we would definitely like to see at some point in time to know how exactly this thing works. So, your markets are closed and you're thinking about retirement. What future do you see for younger fishers as it relates to the lobster diving on the island of Nevis?
Ain't no future for the younger people who want to dive, especially in Nevis. Long time ago, I could have just go around the Fort Point and go in the water. Like a half an hour time, I done got like 40, 50 pound of lobster. No, it take you hours, it take you days to catch that.
Hmm.
Because true, as I tell you, the water drafts so hard and so fast, it just filling up the place and opening them out. Places where couldn't do without going underneath a place. And now, if how the water draft, you could swim right underneath it, go up
Mm-hmm.
on the other side.
Okay.
And when you like that, the lobster them ain't gonna stay there because sand, the water draft, the sand going to turn up
Mm-hmm.
and they're gonna run them.
Okay. So, that is your future outlook. That there's nothing there for the lobster fishery. Um, what about the other areas of fishing, either line or with traps? Do you have any word of advice to give a young person who wants to go into it or have already started?
Well, if you started, I would tell you they could go out, set the traps. You, if they're catching a lot of fish here, and when you look, they go back out the next time, and they haul the pot, they don't catch it. You either end the pot further south or further north or somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
Just like you just shift the bottom a little. But to me, the fishing ain't having nothing. True, a lot of spear fishing doing it in Nevis.
Mm-hmm.
You see, the spear fishing, you might shoot a fish and it get away and it's gonna run. And when other fish see it run, they're gonna run too. They're gonna swim. And the noise where the gun grain the smack is terrible. Frying the fish them.
No, that is very interesting because I remember the first episode of Sea Hunters featured Mr. Carlton Cap Tyson, and that particular point is one of the things he echoed. He said the spear fishers basically cause the fish to become wild,
Wild, yeah.
and you, as another fisher who's been in it for over a half century, is echoing the same sentiment. I'm wondering if there is any true substance to what you are saying. Is this the real cause as to why we are not seeing as much fish
Yes,
being caught?
yes, because he had a time I was diving and he had one boat there about maybe about 10, 20 feet from me. And all I could hear, like when they shoot, either they miss the fish or they catch the fish, you all we hear on the rock, ping, ping, this noise, and the fish them running.
Uh-huh. I believe some sort of investigation would need to be done to determine whether or not this is a serious cause So the
because
reason why fish not being caught
yeah,
as often
he
as
had
they
when
would have.
he had a couple times I go diving and I said like I want a maggot to eat. I don't have a gun. I don't use a spear gun. I don't want to use them. And I would take the lasso, what I lasso the lobster with, and lasso one.
Oh, that is something I would definitely like to see.
Well, it's much people don't know about that. Is
Hmm.
because okay, Mikey,
Yeah,
me and he
spring.
walk, yeah.
Hmm.
Me and he used to go together before with Buckley, and he see me do it.
Hmm.
When I tell him about it, he didn't believe. And when he see me do it, he tried it a couple of times, but
Yeah.
he get it once.
Uh-huh. So he's still a youngster when it comes to the lassoing of fish,
Yeah,
but he is almost a veteran when it
yeah,
comes to fishing
yeah,
in general.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I believe that the lassoing of fish is something that is worth seeing. It's
Yes,
something that.
well, the fish what I lasso, right? I don't really try on the other fish them because they is much smaller and they're gonna run fast more. The market just be plentiful. They call them tickly black market.
Mhm.
We call them stone brass market. I let them just there and they're doing wild, so you have a chance
To
to
lasso.
lasso. Sometimes they're wild, you know,
Mhm.
because sometimes we have to move them away to see under the reef if any lobster there.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes
Um,
they're in front and the lobster to the back.
so Earl, do you have any parting words for our audience?
No, no. You see, the reason if I say anything,
Uh-huh.
if the young fishers, them who want to start, they might vex with me because what I'm going to say. So I
Mhm.
don't want to say anything. I just leave it at that.
Okay. All right then. Thank you very much for agreeing to be interviewed, and I believe the audience would very much appreciate the information that you have shared with us today.
Yes, you're welcome. Okay.
So, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We are here on the bayfront. It was a bright and sunny morning. It's now become cloudy and partly almost rainy even. But we are very thankful to God and we are thankful to NTV and our guest here, Mr. Pupil, for joining us. And remember, this is season 2 of Sea Hunters. We will be doing it again this year, this season, and this is just the beginning of what is to come. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been your host, Randy Morton. Thank you for joining Sea Hunters. We will definitely catch you next time.
Nowhere, nowhere but my island.